From the National Newsroom of the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says 2 people have been charged with setting wildfires in his province. He told reporters this afternoon 1 person was charged in relation to a fire around L'Orange that has forced 7,000 people to flee their homes.
Many, if not virtually all, of the fires that we're dealing with in Saskatchewan are, although not intentionally, are human caused. And some of those have been intentionally human caused.
Saskatchewan has 24 active wildfires, forcing between 10,000 and 15,000 people from their homes. Moe says the Canadian Red Cross is working to set up shelters for evacuees in Regina, Saskatoon, and Prince Albert. A new bill tabled in the House of Commons would speed up approvals for major federal projects and cut down barriers to internal trade. Prime Minister Mark Carney promises to have the bill passed into law by Canada Day.
And we will do everything to get it passed before the summer, and Parliament needs to sit longer. It should sit longer in order to get it passed. That's what Canadians expect.
National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Niepenack says she met yesterday with the Prime Minister and remains deeply concerned about the bill's potential effects on consultations with First Nations. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister is defending his decision to invite Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the G7 summit later this month. Security officials have previously linked Modi's government to the murder of a Canadian man 2 years ago. But Carney says it makes sense to have India at the table as the leaders focus on partnerships with emerging and developing nations. Vancouver police say the suspect in a vehicle ramming last night at the Pacific Coliseum had been the subject of an earlier 911 call. Police say the call came from a Bible study where the man had reportedly been acting erratically, but he left the church before officers arrived. Police say it's believed the man was suffering a significant crisis at the time. He's now being held under the Mental Health Act. U.S. President Donald Trump says American officials will meet with a Chinese delegation next week for new trade talks. Trump says he and Chinese leader Xi Jinping had a very positive conversation yesterday. Statistics Canada says the country's unemployment rate ticked up for the 3rd consecutive month in May, despite the economy adding 8,800 jobs.
The national jobless rate rose to 7% last month, the highest since 2016, outside the pandemic years. The wholesale and retail trade sectors were the major contributor to job gains in May, but those were offset by losses in public administration. Manufacturing, which was hard hit in April, shed roughly 12,000 jobs last month. StatCan says there's been virtually no overall employment growth since January, coming off of strong job gains at the end of last year. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
This is The Canadian Press. In sports, the Edmonton Oilers will look to take a 2-0 Stanley Cup final lead over the Florida Panthers tonight in Game 2. Oilers head coach Chris Knobloch says his team's learned how to deal with difficult situations through its last 2 playoff runs.
They don't get discouraged. They have a strong belief that no matter what happens, they can overcome it.
Edmonton's looking to become the first Canadian team to go up 2-0 in a final since the Vancouver Canucks in 2011. The Toronto Maple Leafs have hired former Detroit Red Wings head coach Derek Lalonde as an assistant on Craig Berube's staff. In baseball, the Toronto Blue Jays kick off a 9-game road trip tonight with a game against the Minnesota Twins. Canada's men's soccer coach Jesse Marsh says it's appalling the Vancouver Whitecaps got sick during a trip to Mexico for the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. He says it's the 2nd straight year an MLS team has fallen ill in Mexico. From the Canadian Press, I'm Jason White.
Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. For more of today's top stories, visit thecanadianpressnews.ca.